You probably heard of Kegels, but not like this. There's a reason why millions struggle with a weak core, low confidence, and that constant, nagging feeling that something's just off in their body. And no matter how many workouts, diets, or yoga classes they try, nothing truly changes. Sound familiar? That's because the real fix, the one that actually rewires your body from the inside out, isn't being talked about openly, not by influencers, not by personal trainers, and definitely not by most doctors. But today, you're going to learn a truth that's been buried for too long, one that connects your deepest core strength to your emotional confidence, and it all starts with a hidden layer of muscle you've been ignoring your entire life. In this story, we're following someone just like you, burned out by fitness fads, exhausted from chasing results that never come, and ready to finally break through. They stumbled onto a method so effective. It didn't just transform their posture or tighten their midsection. It changed the way they walked into a room, the way they spoke, even the way they felt when they looked in the mirror. And no, this isn't one of those tighten your pelvic floor and everything's perfect kind of stories. This is raw, real, and it might just flip everything you thought you knew about fitness, energy, and personal power. Now, before you click away or think this is just another wellness trend, stop. Because if you've ever Googled how to fix diastasis recti at home, Kegel exercises for men, postpartum core recovery, or how to regain confidence after weight gain, this story has your name written all over it. This is your moment. The answer you came for is in this video. I'm going to walk you through the breakthrough that not only healed one body, but uncovered a pattern in thousands more. And no, it wasn't overnight. There were setbacks. There was pain. But there was also a discovery that's so powerful, most health professionals won't even bring it up because they assume you wouldn't stick with it long enough to see it work. That ends now. You're here. You're watching. And if you stay with me until the end, you're going to see exactly why this simple exercise might be the most misunderstood and underused weapon in reclaiming your strength, both physically and mentally. But right before everything started to change, something unexpected happened. Something no one saw coming. And if you think this is just about muscles, think again, because what happened next? That's where the story really begins. Everything started in the quiet hours of early morning, before the world woke up and the noise kicked in. A woman in her late 30s, tired but determined, stood barefoot in her living room. Her name is important. Not yet. What matters is what brought her here. After 3 kids, a stressful job, and years of back-burner self-care, she felt disconnected from her own body. Her core felt weak, her energy drained, and every mirror reminded her of someone she didn't quite recognize. It wasn't about wanting to be skinny or toned anymore. It was about control, about feeling strong enough to hold her own life together without collapsing from exhaustion. She had tried everything, hit routines, low-carb diets, intermittent fasting, online fitness challenges. And yet, the same problem echoed through her posture and movements. Her center felt hollow. She couldn't even sneeze without bracing herself. And somewhere deep down, she knew something crucial had been overlooked. It was a late-night YouTube rabbit hole that led her to the first whisper of something different. A quiet voice in a lesser-known video talked about the pelvic floor. Not as a postpartum fix or a women-only issue, but as the body's true foundation of strength. The kind of strength you don't see in before and after photos. The kind of control you feel when you wake up without back pain, when you stop shifting your weight during long meetings, when confidence isn't something you perform, but something that lives in you. That night, curiosity turned into obsession. She learned that Kegel exercises weren't just about tightening. They were about coordination, breath control, and unlocking a neurological feedback loop that had been neglected for years. More importantly, the real results weren't talked about in mainstream fitness circles. They didn't come from reps or max effort. They came from stillness, focus, and unlocking a muscle most people didn't even know how to feel. But here's where the story starts to twist. Because just as she was beginning to feel the smallest shifts, like her posture holding more upright without effort, or the sudden release of long-held tension in her hips, she received a message, an anonymous DM. No profile picture, no name, just one sentence. You're not doing it right. Let me show you what they won't. Attached was a video link. Private, unlisted, no views. Normally, she would have ignored it. But something about the message's timing, its precision, felt eerie and familiar. Against her better judgment, she clicked. The footage was grainy, filmed in what looked like a basement gym. A figure, face obscured by shadows, explained a sequence of movements, Kegel-based, but layered with techniques that weren't in any textbook. Breath sinking, reverse contractions, Valsalva manipulations. It was advanced, risky, and absolutely compelling. The narrator spoke as if addressing someone who had already begun to question the system, someone who was ready to go deeper. And just like that, she knew this wasn't just about fitness anymore. Over the next few weeks, she became obsessed with decoding the messages hidden in the footage. There were timestamps that linked to anatomical studies, historical diagrams of pelvic exercises practiced by monks and elite warriors, even fragmented journal entries from 1940s physicians whose research had been buried. She noticed patterns, certain phrases repeated, symbols drawn briefly on white boards, references to activation thresholds and biofeedback zones. The deeper she went, the more she realized. This wasn't just a workout. It was a map, a blueprint to accessing physical potential most people would never even scratch the surface of. And someone or something was guiding her toward it. But every time she tried to trace the source of the video, it disappeared. Her search history wiped. Her downloads corrupted. It was as if someone was allowing her to see only what she was ready for. Meanwhile, strange things began happening in her real life. She felt more in control, sure. But people around her began to notice too. Co-workers commented on her presence. Her gait changed. Her voice, once strained and tight, grew calm and powerful. But with every gain came a shadow. Her sleep grew lighter, haunted by dreams of isolation chambers and whispered instructions. A man she didn't know approached her at the grocery store, smiled politely, and said, "It's working, isn't it?" Then walked away. That night, a new video appeared in her inbox. This one wasn't tutorial. It was surveillance footage of her. In a city across the country, another story was unfolding. A man in his 40s, former athlete turned desk jockey, had spent months chasing the root cause of his chronic hip pain and erectile dysfunction, conditions no MRI or blood test could explain. He had tried every stretch, every supplement, every testosterone booster on YouTube. Nothing helped. He stumbled across a comment thread under a video titled, "Fix Your Core Without Crunches," that mentioned something called neuropelvic reset. The commenter warned others not to ask about it publicly. "They'll shadow ban your account," one said. "It's not about muscles. It's about control." Intrigued, he followed the breadcrumb trail. What he found wasn't a product. It was a protocol, one that claimed to reverse nerve shutdown in the pelvic floor by stimulating forgotten pathways through deep breath work and resistance holds. He tried it skeptically, but after just 1 week, his body responded in ways he couldn't explain. Not just strength, awareness, as if he had unlocked a switch in his brain that was never meant to be flipped. But then the migraine started. Each time he performed the full routine, a piercing headache would follow, brief but intense. One morning, he woke up with writing on his bathroom mirror, "They warned you. You didn't listen." He lived alone. That same day, his phone refused to connect to YouTube. Every video recommendation turned blank. Every mention of pelvic or Kegel redirected to generic fitness content. Someone or something was blocking him. Back in a woman's city, her body continued to evolve. She started waking up before her alarm, calm and alert. She felt more emotionally resilient, less reactive. Her anxiety attacks, once a regular part of her week, vanished. She began teaching others casually, friends, family, co-workers. But each time she shared too much, something strange would happen. A friend's phone would freeze mid-recording. Another would find her notes scrambled into gibberish the next day. One night, her youngest child whispered in their sleep, "Don't let them take it from you." When she asked what they meant, the child didn't remember. Across forums and secret email chains, a pattern began to emerge. People from all over the country reported similar transformations: strength without strain, confidence without ego, clarity without caffeine. But all of them had stumbled upon this Kegel secret by accident, through hidden videos or cryptic messages. None could find a source, and each reported strange side effects, sudden emotional releases, bursts of déjà vu, or inexplicable warnings from strangers. It wasn't just a fitness hack. It was a phenomenon. What tied all of them together wasn't just the exercise. It was a feeling that something was watching, that someone was guiding their growth, but also testing their limits. And no one had yet figured out the final stage of the method, because just as they began to master the routine, something always interrupted them. A corrupted video file, a broken link, a warning. And then came the final message, sent to both the woman and the man at the exact same time from different senders. You've reached phase 3. Do not continue without consent. There was no reply option, no unsubscribe link, just those words and a countdown timer. But what happens when the clock hits 0? That's what we're about to find out. The countdown sat frozen at 72 hours, pulsing silently on their screens, demanding attention without explanation. For the woman, this message had appeared on her laptop just as she finished journaling the latest sensations she felt during the neuropelvic reset routine, a subtle vibration behind her navel, an involuntary breath that seemed to rise without her, and a strange, heavy warmth in her palms afterward. She wasn't scared, but there was a tension she couldn't deny anymore. Something was coming. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, the man had just returned from an appointment with a neurologist who told him his brain scan showed increased activity in the insular cortex, an area linked to consciousness, self-awareness, and emotional regulation. The doctor asked if he had changed anything in his routine. The man hesitated, then simply said, "Breath work." The doctor raised an eyebrow, handed him a referral, and said nothing more. When he got back to his car, the same message blinked across his phone's lock screen. Phase 3 begins now. Do not continue without consent. What did consent even mean in this context? It wasn't like they had signed up for a course or clicked a checkbox. This was a subscription or a fitness app. It was something much older. That night, both of them had the same dream. They didn't know each other, had never met, but in the dream, they stood across from one another in a dark space, illuminated by a ring of warm light that pulsed with their breath. Neither could speak, but they both reached out at the same time, palms open, and just before they touched, a surge of energy snapped them backward. They woke up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, the word "sync" etched into their memory like a scar. It was too precise to be a coincidence. The algorithm couldn't have known this, could it? She began researching the keyword pelvic floor energy transfer, expecting junk science or blog spam. But instead, she found an archived interview with a retired physical therapist who claimed he'd seen core syncing between long-term partners during dual meditation. Not just emotional mirroring, but breath patterns, heart rates, even muscular engagement syncing up when pelvic floor tension was released simultaneously. The video was dated 2009 and had less than 300 views. The therapist disappeared a year after the video was posted. The comments section had been disabled. At the same time, the man stumbled across a restricted subforum on an old biohacking site. Users spoke in code, using phrases like internal resonance, theta activation, and anchor release. But buried between lines of cryptic jargon was one phrase that made his stomach twist. Phase 3 requires dyad sync for full unlock. He didn't know what dyad sync meant exactly, but it matched the sensation from the dream, and the timer was still counting down. Both their lives began shifting in subtler, yet more dramatic ways. The woman's co-workers had started to treat her differently. She wasn't just noticed anymore, she was respected. She found herself saying less, but being heard more. Her confidence didn't feel like something she had to summon. It just existed. But so did the paranoia. A neighbor who never spoke to her before casually asked if she believed in biofield tuning. A friend from college sent her a random voice note saying, "I had a dream about you. You were glowing, but someone was trying to steal it." She deleted it before she could reply. The man, on the other hand, began experiencing strange electrical interference. Whenever he performed the deeper phase of the Kegel routine, slow holds, internal breath locks, and pressure inversions, his phone buzzed without notifications, his TV flickered, and his smartwatch recorded heart rate spikes inconsistent with his breathing. One night, he blacked out mid-routine and woke up an hour later with the word "calibrate" written in the steam on his bathroom mirror. 3 days before the countdown ended, they both received one final message. Location revealed. Your presence is required. No signal beyond this point. A pin dropped in a remote mountain area, miles from cell towers or cities. They both hesitated, but not for long. Whatever this was, it had already pulled them too deep to walk away. They packed separately, drove silently, and arrived at different times, sunset framing the quiet hills like a painting. And there, nestled between pine trees and shadows, stood an abandoned retreat center, rusted gates, overgrown pathways, a silence that felt too complete. No one greeted them, but the doors were unlocked. Inside, the rooms had been cleared out except for a central chamber, circular, dimly lit, with a ring of floor cushions and a projector pointed at the wall. The moment they stepped inside, the projector flickered on automatically, playing footage neither of them recognized. The screen showed other people, men, women, all ages, sitting in the same room they were in now, each performing the same pelvic sequences in complete sync. Their movements were slow, deliberate, and eerily harmonious, but their eyes looked dazed, as if they were seeing something the camera couldn't. Then the footage jumped, fast cuts, static, flashes of internal scans and data overlays. And then a voice, calm, familiar, yet distorted, as if layered with another behind it. It said, "The core is not just muscle. It is memory. It holds trauma. It holds potential. And in synchronization, it can be rewritten." At that moment, they saw each other, for the first time, face to face. The woman and the man. No names, no introduction, just recognition. They had dreamed of this before. They didn't need to speak. The projector powered off. The room went silent. And then a panel on the floor opened with a slow mechanical groan, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The countdown hit 0. They walked down together. The stairs led to a low chamber with mirrored walls. In the center stood an older man, dressed in dark fabric, calm as a still lake. He introduced himself as a former biomechanical engineer turned rogue researcher, someone who had left the system after realizing that pelvic neuromuscular activation could unlock not just physical transformation, but neurological recalibration. He had once worked on military-grade biofeedback systems meant to train soldiers to regulate pain and adrenaline through core control, but the program had been shut down. The side effects were too unpredictable. What he discovered was that the pelvic floor was not just a pressure regulator. It was a gateway to emotional memory, primal instinct, and spatial awareness. He called it the anchor theory. And then came the twist. They weren't the first, not by a long shot. Over the last 15 years, dozens had made it to phase 3. Some had gone further, but not all came back. Because the final phase didn't just strengthen your body, it rewired it. And once the core sync locked in with another person, the two were neurologically tethered, not in a sci-fi way, but in micro patterns of breath, intuition, even heart rate fluctuations. They became mirrors. The success rate of full sync was 17%. Failure meant regression, sometimes breakdown. The woman and the man were told they were showing the highest compatibility the program had ever seen. But if they chose to continue, they'd need to perform the full sequence, together in absolute synchronicity, while monitored in the subterranean chamber, where electromagnetic signals couldn't interfere. They hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this was no longer about exercise or fitness or fixing a weak core. It was about giving up autonomy, trusting the other with everything: emotion, memory, trauma, strength, vulnerability. But the strange thing? Neither of them felt afraid. For the first time in their lives, their breaths slowed in unison, heart rates aligned, muscles relaxed. They sat opposite each other on the cool stone floor, closed their eyes, and began. What followed wasn't recorded. The researcher said it couldn't be. The sequence was too volatile, too personal. But the monitors outside flickered wildly. Power surged. For 12 minutes, the facility experienced a blackout, though no weather event or outage was recorded in the area. When the lights returned, the chamber was empty. Only 2 items remain on the floor. A handwritten note that read, "The sync is complete. Phase 4 must not be forced." And a USB drive marked with one word, share. They had vanished. But a week later, across thousands of YouTube accounts, mostly dormant or anonymous, short clips began to surface, each less than 60 seconds, each showing fragments of the movement sequence, subtle changes in posture, eyes that seemed to know more than they should. They weren't tutorials. They weren't explained, but the comments exploded. I tried this and felt a pulse in my spine. My anxiety stopped for a whole day. I saw someone else do it, and I breathed in sync without meaning to. The algorithm tried to suppress them. Auto-mutes, strikes, but new versions kept surfacing, almost as if someone or something was making sure they were seen. And now you're here, watching this, feeling the pull, wondering if your body has been holding back something it doesn't even know it's missing. But be careful. The next step isn't just about what you learn. It's about who you become. Perfect. I understand exactly what you need. You'll send me one story title, and I'll create one detailed thumbnail prompt based on it. The prompt will be written in a way that allows thumbnail designers or AI tools to generate a visually powerful movie-style thumbnail. It will include all key characters referenced in the title, an aggressive, attention-grabbing tone and visual direction, strategic additions to make it go viral, emotional tension, mystery, strong contrast, trending aesthetics, a look that stops the scroll and retains viewers just from the thumbnail alone. Here's a sample format of what you'll receive when you send me your title. Create a cinematic-style YouTube thumbnail featuring brief character setup from title. Show all main characters with intense facial expressions, a mix of fear, determination, and aggression. Add a dramatic background with harsh lighting and high contrast. Stormy skies, shattered mirrors, or a glowing, pulsing energy at the center. Include visual elements that hint at suspense and transformation, such as clenched fists, glowing eyes, or broken chains. Use bold, sharp text overlays like "exposed" or "the truth hurts" to tease conflict. Apply red, black, and electric blue tones to trigger urgency and curiosity. Make sure the design is so gripping that viewers can't look away. They should feel like they're missing a once-in-a-lifetime secret if they don't click. Think viral fitness docuseries meets thriller movie poster.